With another important feature from my morning radio show on KFNX in Phoenix, I'm Charles Goyette for AntiwarRadio.com.
Ron Paul is on the line with us from Lake Jackson, Texas. Congressman, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Charles. Thanks for having me on again.
Yeah, great pleasure to have you on. Tell us about the book. Are you surprised you hit the bestseller list right away?
Yeah, I am surprised because it's something that I've talked about for many, many years, and sort of like I was a bit surprised in the campaign how much attention we got and how much money we raised, and yet repeating so much of what I've been saying in the form of a simplified book. It's not that complicated. I was very pleasantly surprised, and I'm glad that it has done well, and it continues to do so.
Well, give us some of the points we can take away from our conversation about the book.
Well, in a way, it's a summary of the platform that I talked about, throughout the last year. There's a major chapter on foreign policy because that's been one of the big issues that I've dealt with. Non-interventionist foreign policy, not to be, confused with isolationism, and I explain that. I've gotten into politics many years ago over the monetary issue in the economy back in the 70s because I was interested in the IMF and the World Bank and the gold standard, and so I spend a whole chapter just on the monetary issue, and then economics in general, but a whole chapter just on the Constitution, why so many of our problems have come from not obeying the Constitution. We can solve a lot by just following our oath of office, and also the issue of civil liberties. I spent a lot of time on that because I think that is also so important.
We were talking before we hooked up with you in the last segment of our program about the revelations from Scott McClellan that all these things that we were saying, that the Bush administration relied on propaganda to sell the war, that the press corps let them get away with one whopper after another.
According to the British government, the Iraqi regime could launch a biological or chemical attack in as little as 45 minutes after the order were given.
There is no doubt that Saddam Hussein now has weapons of mass destruction. There is no doubt that he is amassing them to use against our friends, against our allies, and against us.
I suppose it's better late than never to come out of Bush's own camp, but these are all the things we were saying at the time could have spared us all of this economic destruction and death and carnage as well.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, better late than never. And it still may serve a purpose because there's a lot of the same people who promoted that propaganda to get us involved in Iraq are also there agitating and trying to get Bush to do something against Iran before he leaves. So this discredits those who are in charge of our foreign policy to a degree that maybe this country will wake up and maybe the media, mainstream media, will resist the temptation of going along just to get along and promote the war propaganda. Maybe they'll ask more questions. So hopefully there'll be some good come of this. But it also vindicates so much of what a large number of people, it wasn't just me who voted against the war or complained about what was going on, because they didn't have the evidence that we were under a threat. That was absolutely not true, and it didn't take a whole lot to figure that out. But now at least we should make them a lot more cautious, especially since the economic consequences, not even counting all the tragedy of the death and destruction, the injuries and the sick people that have come back, but the economic consequences have been so overwhelming that we need to wake up pretty fast about what type of a foreign policy that we have around the world.
Well, we better wake up really fast. I've been carrying a story around this morning that I haven't gotten to yet, but from the Asia Times, which says that the administration plans to launch an airstrike on Iran in, I guess, by August, and they go so far as to say that a couple of key senators have been briefed on it, and they suggest that the plan is so shocking that even Richard Lugar and one other senator, I think it's Dianne Feinstein, have submitted an op-ed to the New York Times to be published within a couple of days to express their opposition. They don't let the cat out of the bag that we've been briefed by the administration. This is their plans, but they hurried to their word processor to get a piece written to kind of get the world's attention what these guys are up to.
And that is good, and I hope and pray that they're very, very sincere. But sometimes you hear these same people. You hear Nancy Pelosi at times saying, and she'll go over to Israel and say that we don't take any options off the table when we're dealing with Iran, and we cannot let them have a nuclear weapon. Well, those are inflammatory words, and Others around the world have nuclear weapons, all the way from Israel to India to Pakistan to Russia and China, and to say that this third world nation might think about it and will take no options off the table, you just hope that those who are expressing reservations win this debate and that our side wins this argument rather than we get enrolled again.
Tell me about the presidential campaign. Where do you stand in this presidential race? You're still a candidate, right?
Yeah, I'm technically a candidate. We recognize that we don't have the votes, but it's almost impossible for me to turn off the enthusiasm. Instead of it dying down, it tends to build, and they just don't want to walk away from it. And I think 99% are realistic, and they know what it is, but they believe that what we're doing is very worthwhile because, we just had an election yesterday in Idaho, and we had 25% there. In Montana, we had 25%, and the state of Washington is having a primary up there, and they're very, very enthusiastic. So it's a vehicle that we've used to continue to send this message. And it's exactly the day that's going to close down. I'm not even sure myself. I think the New York Times maybe got it pretty close. They said, well, it's no longer a campaign, it's a mission. And I think for many of my supporters, it is a mission. They want to change the Republican Party. They're getting involved in grassroots politics. They're getting involved in educational things. They're getting involved in running for office and getting the right people to run. So that process is continuing. And even if tomorrow the campaign was officially closed down, we'll continue to do the same thing in trying to bring about change that is positive and something that, quite frankly, the Republicans have claimed they believed in. They've always been the party that believed in personal liberty and economic freedom and limited government and balanced budgets. So it shouldn't be that strange to the Republican Party.
Well, all the people that took to the streets on your behalf and sent in those money bomb contributions, they want a champion. I mean, it seems quite obvious that even in defeat, even if you go down to the mat swinging, you may not want to, but that's what they want. I mean, they want somebody that will carry this thing through, and then, maybe out of the ashes of the defeat, something new will arise in the future.
Right. No, and that's where we are today. There's, the practical arguments about going on to something else and doing something differently versus going down to the mat. But I think it's obviously a different argument for me and John McCain than it is with Hillary and Obama, because, their votes are very, very close and something could change there, and that's not likely to happen. But just the fact that we can stand and stand to the final bell gives people encouragement, and we keep reaching more and more people.
Your numbers are growing.
Yeah, it's actually getting better. And most of the time, if a candidate starts losing, they have to quickly get out of the way. They don't want any more embarrassments. I only got 22%. I'm leaving town. And they quickly close down. They disappear. You never hear about them again. Where do their supporters go? So I think there's definitely a difference. I think they have rallied around a message rather than the individual.
Will the delegates that supported you and that fought through the machinations of the party regulars, the business as usual people, when they get to the convention at the end of the summer, will they still be able to vote for you?
Probably not. They don't have to. If I'm active or inactive, it doesn't matter much. But you have to get nominated from the floor, and you actually cast a vote for that individual, requires something that we don't have. You have to have a majority of a numerous number of states to do that, so that we won't qualify. But whether I'm an official candidate or the campaign has technically ended, those individuals still go to the convention. They were elected as Ron Paul delegates, and my understanding is they are not committed. But ours will always be committed. They're not going to automatically start carrying around John McCain signs. So they're going to be there, and they're going to represent our views and our platform, and they're going to have a presence. There'll be alternates. We have now found out that a lot of people were able to sneak in the back door by being delegates for other candidates, and their only obligation is if there's a vote for those other delegates, they have to vote for them on the first go-around. But that doesn't keep them off the floor, and they are there. But we're also planning, a grand finale rally up in Minneapolis during that week. And the staff every day is getting more optimistic about the number of people that might come. They asked me to commit to a hall with 5,000, and now they're asking me to commit to a much bigger one, and that makes me a little bit nervous because I'm always, a little skeptical about, how many people we can get out, but they always ask what I think.
You don't know your own strength.
Yeah, I just, I guess I don't want to pretend and brag and say, well, we're going to have 20,000 people, then you get 200. I don't want any of that stuff, so I always am very cautious on claiming what we can do.